and she's the most beautiful spirited woman and loves the Lord so much. She told me that she was a sponsored child. So now she's gone back to pay back. And then the picture you see in the bottom right is a doctor I work for. I don't know if y'all know that I work all the time in the medical field, but I work for really good Christian men. And one of the doctors that I work for is over in Kenya right now on a 1-month mission trip. He's doing surgery at the largest hospital in the world. And he agreed to take a 50-pound luggage with him, and we filled it with the dresses that I didn't hand out in Zimbabwe. So all those dresses you see are those that you ladies made, okay? And they went into the hands of these children in the children's home. And then we also took soccer balls, and look at the joy on their faces. I mean, just look at the joy on the leaders' faces. So look at the next slide. These are the girls in your dresses. Do you recognize any of them? They're so sweet. And this one over on the left, she has a look that I want to know her. She might have to be going to school. She has that look. But aren't they precious? And they're just, when you hand these dresses to these girls, you tell them they were made with love for you, by people that don't even know you. It's the love that connects you. And what they feel is that somebody sees me. Someone sees me. And just the joy is remarkable. So thank you for all of you who made those dresses. Okay, so that's the catch up on Kenya. Now, fast forward. By the way, on my rebirth day, Dorian Flynn was the one who baptized me at North Street. So this is an extra special trip for me. And I wanted to go with him for a long time, and now it just happened. So the house you see is the Partners for Africa house. Sherry Flynn told me that they prayed a long time for it, and it didn't happen right when they wanted, but it happened in God's perfect timing. It's a wonderful house because it's constantly filled in and out with people just praising God and working for God. And it was just a great experience. And this was a much safer mission trip, by the way. If any of you are scared to go to Africa, this is a trip to go on because Zimbabwe is a very peaceful country, or Bulawayo for sure is peaceful. In Kenya, we had to have armed, escorts all the time. But Dorian keeps you very safe and very busy. Let me tell you, when I put this together, I thought, wow, I did not know we did all that. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. This is one of his projects. So we got there on Friday. We had to reacclimate because it takes about 25 hours to get there. So you have to kind of regroup, and we bought some groceries. But the very next day, he had us working. The lady in the green you see, her name is Faith. She's a part of Partners for Africa, and she does this feeding program at one of the churches every Saturday. Some of these children are orphans, some are not, but they're underprivileged children. And what you're seeing that we feed them is rice, boiled potatoes, butternut squash, and they get like a sausage. And then I'm down on the ground. I'm the Kool-Aid scooper, which is so fun because you get to be at the level of the children. But they tell you how many potatoes to give them and exactly how many of everything because they want to make sure they have enough. And they're cooking it over an open fire behind the building. So on this trip, what Dorian does is he shows you what his mission is, and then he lets you be involved, but you really don't do the hard work like the people that are slaving over the fires. The people that run the projects do that. But you definitely get a taste and you get to meet all those children. So on the next slide, you'll see that at this same feeding, after it was over, can we look at the next slide, guys? Hello. We got to hand out the dresses, and see, there's the picture of all you ladies who are involved in making the dresses, and Glenda and Jaquetta are not in that picture, but they also are very much a part of this trip. And these are 3 of the girls that we handed out to. Look how happy they are. And the one on the right with the star, that's Miss Maudie's dress. I know that for sure. I wasn't really sure about all of them, but I did recognize that one. We handed out probably 40 or 50. I'm not sure. Let's go to the next slide. There's all of them in their dresses. Look how happy they are. They just love receiving those dresses. They feel so special, and it's such a joy to give it to them, just and one at a time. That was really neat. Each one of those girls got their picture made with the dress, and they would pose. It was so cute. Okay, so then that same night, because I told you Dorian keeps you busy, we had a devotional nearly every night at the Partners for Africa house. We had all the young people over, so they're like college-age people, and we did a Bible study with the girls, and then the men did a Bible study with the guys, and they're just the neatest women. They love the Lord, and they know the Word so much. It was just an inspiration. Each one of these young ladies received jewelry made by Glenda Harris, and they were so honored by that and so touched by that. The lady with the baby on her back, aren't they cute? This is Noma. She and her husband live in the house that Dorian has over there all year round, and they keep the mission work going while Dorian's here raising money, and that's her little baby Laura. We all love Laura. And then on the bottom left is the lady you see taking a selfie, which she loves to take selfies, is Rogelyn Andrews. She is a North Street sister, and she's been several times. And she typically taught on this trip the older ladies, and Kristen and I taught the children. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so these ladies also, the baby even has Glenda Harris's jewelry on. That's why she's holding up her little wrist. This is Laura and Noma and Kristen. And then the other lady is Abigail. She helps, like, what she does is she comes in and washes your clothes for you. She cooks for us and for the people, like when you have men come over for a preacher study, she cooks for them. And look at how she's just displaying Glenda's jewelry. She was so proud of that. And I thought that scripture was perfect because Glenda, is using her gift to serve others, and she's still doing that. That's just remarkable to me. Okay, so this was our first Sunday. Just so you'll know, Kristen and I were told, here you're going to teach children on this day, and then you'll teach children on this day, but we don't know how many. We don't know what language they speak. We have no idea where. So you go on a lot of prayer when you go on this, and we did. And I have to give glory to God because we prayed, what are we going to teach? We don't know what their knowledge is. We don't know what their language is, so we came up with the fact that we're going to teach on the light of the world, being the light of the earth. Jesus is the light. And interestingly enough, another girl we had never met from Alabama, guess what lesson she brought to the table? The light. Her lesson was the light, and they were all different scriptures referring to the light. So just another affirmation that when you pray, you get your answers. So this is our first lesson about the light. Back on that slide, look that we are teaching children's Bible class on a bus. So that was our first thing. Okay, you're going to teach on a bus. And so we said, okay. And we just taught about your word is a lamp. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And they knew it and they loved it. The teachers were so excited that we had, paper plates left over to give them to use. They wanted to use the lesson. And they were also excited that we had just clothespins, just every little thing we take for granted here, they consider a treasure. And that's always such a blessing to me to be able to come back and, just have a better appreciation of things. So this is the church. This is Bulawayo Central, which is where we taught that Bible class on the bus. This church obviously has more money than some of the other places we went. I think it's one of the ladies, they honored us by allowing us to sit on the front in worship service. And I sat by a lady who was just so humble and, gentle, and she would pass the hymn book to me when we got to worship in 3 languages every time. This man is interpreting for Dorian, and then we sang in 3 different languages, English, Ndebele, and Shona. And she would hand me the hymn books when it was in Ndebele, and I could follow it. I had no idea what I was saying, but I could, phonetically sing it. Found out she's a doctor, and so is her husband. And so I think they give a lot back to the church. And when you see the medical clinic later in the photos, she has a big part in making that happen. And then in the bottom left, Dorian is teaching the young people just out in the yard. So even though there's more money here, it's still nothing compared to what we have. So let's go to the next slide. That day was amazing. This young man you see, this is a well that Dorian Partners for Africa has organized to be at this church. This is at the same church. This young man you see there carrying, I don't know if you can tell, but he doesn't have legs. He's had bilateral amputations. Apparently, when he was 8, he woke up with severe pain, and I don't really think they ever found out what was wrong, but it resulted in bilateral amputations. And he has had the same prosthetics. He's now 15 that he did when he was issued that when he was 8 years old. So he's in a lot of pain, and he's really having a rough life. He's living with a 95-year-old man, so he's kind of caring for him. But he knew what was important. He wanted to give his life to Christ, and we got to witness that. Is that not the most beautiful baptism? And then after a baptism over there, they all just burst out into song in a different language, and it's just so spiritual. It's like they're representing the angels rejoicing. So I was glad to see that, very glad. Okay, then Dorian has us in the bush, the jungle, basically. This is a village. It's called Chidobe, and the structure you see on the left is just a little, covering. The pews, if you will, are just logs that you're sitting on. The ladies sit on the ground, and the men sit on the pews. But we were honored guests, so we were allowed to sit on the pews. And I just think it's amazing. If you look at the picture on the right, this is Kristen, our daughter, wearing her Stephen F. Austin University shirt, sitting in the bush of Zimbabwe, Africa, next to an elder of the Chidobe village. What do you think brought them both there together? Our Lord. Is that not just amazing? And that was the most beautiful service. Talk about, we all know be still and know that I am God. When you're in the bush and all you're doing is you're all there solely to lift up your voices to the Lord, and it's so quiet, and the nature, I was so moved. I don't even know how to describe it. This man here that you see sitting by Kristen apparently has this land that the church is on. And if you'll go to the next screen, this is a well that you sponsored in this Chidobe village. And this gentleman you see said, "Take a picture of me pumping the well." And I said, "Okay, they'll love to see that." So the way Dorian explained it to me is, for him to do a well, he has to know the land is owned and that they're going to be building a church. Once that happens, he, has his scientific people go in and make sure there's 90% chance that they'll find water, and then they put the well in. And so that's what's happened here. And I don't remember how many acres they have, but probably at least what we could see is 5. And they're going to hand clear those acres, just like our great-great-grandparents used to do. But they are so excited about it. This little family down on the left, I love these little family. They received Glenda's jewelry. And the mom just cried when I gave it to her. She just said, God is so good. God is so good. And I think it's just because she's like, it's a way that she feels like he remembers her here in the bush. And she just cried and she told me, I've raised these children all by myself. Apparently the dad left them. And look at these children. These ladies are so classy and they're so intelligent and they're so hungry for the Lord. And the one kneeling on the ground was fascinated with Kristen because she wants to go to college and she knew Kristen and graduated. And she came up and asked us, what do you think? I want to be an attorney. Do you believe this is a Christian profession? Because I've had some people that told me it is not. And I said, well, I thought it was interesting that she would ask our opinion. I don't know why we would have that answer any better than anyone else. But I said, we have the opportunity to be representatives of Christ no matter what profession we're in. And every profession is going to potentially have adverse challenges, if you will. But I said, if that's what your heart is called to do, you just use it, and you use that in your ministry, and God will see you through it. He will use you as a tool. So I thought that was neat. Next, Dorian drives us up to Hwanghae, which is up near Victoria Falls, and this is it's like a neighborhood, if you will, and the men there wanted to build a church within the neighborhood. This is another well sponsored by you and North Street. I got to pump that one. I didn't have a picture of it, but Dorian asked me to pump it, so you get to get a picture. And then the early church structure that they have. And for those of you who know Dorian, he's so smiley. Well, he is, because I was with him 24/7. He's always happy, always smiley. And he laughingly said, yes, the people of the neighborhood are allowed to come and pump as much water as they want. Doesn't cost them anything. And he said, we will draw them with the water to the living water. And I love that. And it worked, you meet people's physical needs through the love of Christ, and that draws them to Christ. And it gives them an open ear to hear what he has done for each of us. So, okay, here's the medical clinic. This was amazing. They own this land. What you see are the two buildings are like the exam rooms and a maternity ward. We are screen printing sheets. There were 700 sheets and pillowcases that they're just hand screen printing. This iron that you see this gentleman is using it's full of hot coals, so there's no electricity out there yet. But it was some really rewarding work. They have fruit trees, and they're growing vegetables, etc. It's just phenomenal because it's going to serve 2,000 people that do not have access to medical care otherwise. And then they're also, from my understanding, going to build a school. This is an example of the Shine program that Dorian has, where they bring preachers to this house, and the more mature Christian men mentor them so that they can go out and lead their individual churches. But what I really wanted you to know about this picture is all these men, here they are in suits. They rode over 200 kilometers in the back of a jalopy pickup to get here to do this, and were excited to do it. It was phenomenal. Okay, at the last minute, right before we left, they said, oh, by the way, we're going to do a Bible school, so just bring some supplies, and, we might have 50 to 200 kids. So we said, okay. But this is where it was. It was under this little tent, and look at these children's faces. Are they not the most innocent little sweet faces? And they love singing. And so we sang for them. Kristen and I learned how to sing Jesus Loves Me and Into Belly, by the way, to impress them. But I think we might have got it a little bit wrong, but they were kind. And then they sang for us. And this was such a joy. If you'll go to the next slide, we got to hand out dresses here too. Do any of y'all see your dresses? Look at this little one on the right. And the top two on the right, these are some of the college girls that they wanted to dress. Some of the women even wanted dresses. And they were so excited. Look how beautiful they feel. Okay, this is really exciting. These two girls, or the girl you see on the left in the green, received a dress that day. The woman on the right with like the white little scarf on her head, she received one of Glenda's rings and just cried when I gave it to her. She didn't speak English, but I just gave it to her and she just cried. Next thing I know, we're getting in a van, driving to the church, and both of them are getting baptized in the dress. And do you see the ring? Doreen captured the ring that she has on of Glenda's as she's coming up out of the waters of baptism. Wow. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, then we taught a lesson. It was always a lesson and a feeding when we did feedings. This is the girl I told you about that's teaching about the light of the world, how we as Christians are the light of the world. This is at what's called Airport School. This is very underprivileged children. It was just so tragic to me. It was almost like the level of the slum, but just cleaner. The school's probably going to be closed because the latrines are maxed. That we didn't get to hand out dresses here because they felt it would be too disruptive for the classes, and I'm just going to admit I cried, but I left dresses for them. So Noma is going to hand those out for us. But this is their little classroom sitting on cinder blocks. If we'll go to the next slide, this is the feeding line, just so you'll see the faces of these children. Same meal, and then in the top right is where these women cook over an open fire all of this food for these children. And you know what the children do? They'll get their plate. They always come back for more as long as there's more, and then they'll come back for the last of it and just keep it in their hands, and they'll put it in their pockets to take home to their family. They'll save it. And our kids can't even stand our cafeterias. These are the children at a private Christian charter school. You can obviously see the energy in these children. They sang for us. We did a lesson with them. They were just so inspiring, and it makes me so excited to see that kind of love for the Lord in youth all the way across the world. So I will just leave you with this last, and thank you for going with me to Africa. We'll do this last slide. Do you have audio on this? Okay, listen.
Until the judgment day, we'll sing and praise the Lord.